Hey everyone, this is Dina speaking. So if you watched our previous Facebook Lives, we're trying something different this time. In today's world, people can get their favorite food delivered, entire TV shows at the touch of a button. Even your therapist is online. With so many services available at your fingertips, finding tax support and expertise, even for more involved filing situations, shouldn't mean leaving the comfort of your home. Thanks to TurboTax, it doesn't have to, since the launch of TurboTax SmartLook this year. Before we bring on our special guest today, we wanted to share a bit about why, with this personalized expertise and guidance of TurboTax SmartLook, you'll feel so confident filing, you'll wish we did more than taxes. TurboTax SmartLook gives you live on-demand help and guidance with your taxes, so you're never alone when filing your return. In fact, you never have to leave the house or change out of your Mickey Mouse pajamas. Here's how it works. Customers connect live through a one-way video. You'll then see a SmartLook agent who can't see you, only your screen. Just kind of like what we're doing right now. No pajama judgment here. Through this one-way video, you get your personalized answers and guidance on your return. Our experts and specialists can even draw on your screen, virtually of course. Sounds pretty good, right? Today we're bringing a SmartLook tax specialist, Peggy Tsang, and parenting expert, LaToya Forever, together to answer some of your most pressing questions. I'll get us started for those following along. Tell us some of your parenting related questions and you could win your own copy of TurboTax Live, which includes SmartLook. We will do 3 free product draws throughout our broadcast. So let's get started. Peggy, what's it like being a SmartLook agent?
It's actually a lot of fun because I get to interact with customers live and they get to ask me all of their tax related questions. They can see me so they can know that I'm actually online with them, but I can't see them. And I can see their screen though, and then I can point to, exactly where, they may have questions and also direct them to where they may want to enter an expense or deduction.
But today I'm here with you, so you'll get to see me. They can't see me, however.
Yes.
Okay then. Now we've brought you on today, Peggy, because we've been noticing a trend here. After people have had help from our tax experts like yourself and our TurboTax specialist, they want more. We're not just giving tax advice, we're giving confidence. And that means people start asking some unrelated questions.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I had a customer, once I helped him with his, medical expenses. He had a back injury that year. And then he started asking me about how to get out of his locked bathroom. I'm not sure why he was filing his taxes there, but it was interesting.
That sounds really exciting. I'm sure you have a lot more stories there. So to be a fly on the wall, or in this case, a screen, well, today we're giving our customers a chance to do more than taxes with us. For today's special edition SmartLook segment, we've invited parenting expert LaToya Forever to answer all those questions that you as a tax... That's not to say you won't try.
Well, I'll try. That is the key word there.
Let's add in LaToya. As we pause to connect, we ask our viewers to please comment with your questions related to fitness, health, taxes, or whatever, for a chance to win.
Hello.
Welcome, LaToya. Hey, LaToya, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we're super excited to have you join us today. So tell us a bit about yourself as a parenting expert.
So I'm LaToya Forever. I have 2 children. Samia, she's 3 years old, and my son, he's 2 years old. I'm an online personality. I document my life. I'm an author. I'm a fitness professional. I'm a parenting expert. I'm juggling 2 children, 2 toddlers. Yes. I should wear
I
a
have
crown.
to say, you have 2 kids and you're doing all that. That's pretty exciting and awesome work.
That's
Thank
amazing.
you so much.
So I'm going to kick off the chat with one of the most common questions that we get. When and what do kids need to know about money? What do you think, LaToya?
I think the age that they need to know about money is the age 3, when they start asking you to buy them things, when they start going to the stores and saying, Mommy, can you buy me this Barbie, or Mommy, can you buy me this truck? We need to really introduce it when they are young and they're asking you to buy them stuff. My husband and I, we introduced a reward system in our household where our children, they have to do chores. They have to clean up their toys, clean their room, help me with the dishes, and we reward our children every so often, and we take them to the store and we buy them a treat, something small to reward them, so they know that, you know, you have to work for what you want in life.
I'm sure a lot of parents are very happy to hear that. I'm going to be using that tip, so thank you for that. So what about you, Becky? When should you start using the T word with your children?
Well, I think as early as possible. Even while you're pregnant, I think you should be talking to them about taxes, because you know, you deal with taxes every day. And LaToya is right. You know, a little treat, that's a great example of consumption tax. Then you take a bite out of it, and then that's the perfect example of consumption tax.
Right.
I should be doing that right now. My 6 months.
Especially if they have a good treat, you want a bite of that.
Right. I want a piece of that reward.
Exactly.
Let's see if we have any questions from the audience. So when should children open up a bank account? Let's start with you, Becky.
Well, I think it's a great way to learn about money, opening a bank account. So I think anytime you feel like you want to put aside some money, like especially like, you know, you're getting gifts, you know, from grandparents or other relatives, you know, it's a great way for them to put away a little bit of savings. And it's a great way to show them that they're earning and then they're growing their savings. So I think as early as possible.
That's so true. And what about you, LaToya?
100%. My children, they're so young, and I opened up a bank account for them. I'm putting money in those bank accounts for their future, for their college, for their wedding, you know. So I think it's important to start young, and it starts with the parents. Just really, you know, starting to help your children save for their future.
So keep the questions coming in, and watch out for prizes throughout and after the broadcast too. I have a question for LaToya. How involved do you recommend being in your child's finances?
I think it's so important to be in your child's finances. One, because they don't know about finances. They don't know, like, my children, I need them to be, 1 second. Sorry. It's important to be in your child's finances because they are so young, you know, and they need that. Am I cutting out?
No, we can hear you. All great. But you're so true, so right. Like I see my 9-year-old daughter, and she'll have like $100, and she'll go and she'll just spend it. So yeah, for sure, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And that sounds very practical. So come tax time, is that a different story, Becky?
Well, a lot of times I see parents doing their kids' taxes, and you'll be surprised. One of the reasons they're doing their taxes is because they want the tuition credits. They want to make sure that their sons and daughters are filing to transfer the credits to the parents. So, and a lot of times I'm like, oh, they're pretty old. They should be learning to do their own taxes. But the parents are like, no. I have to get the tuition credit.
So when do you recommend that parents should allow their kids to do their own taxes and should give them that shove? I mean, we push them out at 16 to go and live on their own. Why are we still doing their taxes?
I think when they're in high school, they're learning about finances, you know, in classes and stuff. That's a really great time to show them about taxes, because I think it also demystifies the whole process, because it's so easy, especially with TurboTax. You know, you have the interview, you do a few clicks, you can download all your information from CRA. So there's really no reason why your high schooler can't learn, especially now with the people, they are so good with technology. So the earlier they learn about it, the better it is.
For sure.
So everyone benefits from an education.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about parents of young children. As an expectant mother myself, I see dollar signs when I think of all the new expenses coming my way. I'm dreading it right now. What are the best things I could do for my child on a limited budget for entertainment? What do you think, LaToya?
I think when it comes to entertainment, you need to go to your local communities and see what programs they're offering. I know our community center, they have pools and it's free. It's all free recreation for children. I'm a big couponer. I love saving money. So I'm always online looking for coupons, and I don't know, I can't shop without a coupon. So yeah, coupons, even libraries have functions as well, and drop-in classes at your local community center as well. So yeah, city events, even, you know, there's free entertainment in every community. We are so blessed to live in North America.
Thanks for that, LaToya. I'll be taking your advice in a few months from now.
Congratulations on your pregnancy.
Thank you.
Well, I understand a lot of people complaining about, you know, a lot of expenses with babies coming and stuff. But I think the greatest news about it is the Canada Child Benefit. So the moment you have your child, you know, the government is going to start paying you, which is like the Canada Child Benefit is basically the replacement for UCCB. It was called UCCB before, the Universal Child Care Benefit. Now it's the Canada Child Benefit, and it's not taxable, which is yay. And on top of that, it's based on your income, so you do have to file your taxes in order for you to get the Canada Child Benefit. So get those filings in.
That sounds great, because education is really expensive.
Yeah.
And we have to start saving from now.
For sure. That's so important.
So we have another question from our viewers. Would you charge children interest if they borrowed money from you? What do you think, Becky?
Ooh, very interesting question. So I guess it depends on what the purpose is for the loan. And if you do charge interest, and if you're planning on, I guess, claiming that as income, so, I mean, really it depends. I mean, a lot of times I would tell people, yes, you should, and then, you know, claim it as income, and it could be also deductible for your child if they're also having a return, especially if they're borrowing the money for business purposes. You know, maybe they're starting their own business or things like that. But make sure that the rate is at the Canada rate, because you can't undercharge them, because, you know, there's rules surrounding, you know, having a lower interest rate, and therefore you get a benefit. So just make sure that the rate is at the Canada interest rate.
LaToya, any thoughts on that?
I think for bigger purchases, like when it comes to a car or a laptop, I would definitely charge a little interest rate for bigger purchases.
Yeah, that's I think good advice, right? Getting them to understand the value of money.
For sure.
Right? It doesn't just come for free. Yeah. So let's get another audience question in. And while you're asking questions, don't forget to share the Facebook Live on your page. We're giving away 3 product codes so you can do your taxes and get help from your own Smart Look tax specialist. We're also giving away 3 movie gift certificates. So make sure to send those questions in. When should you set a SIN number for your children? Pecky, what do you think of that?
So in Ontario, they actually make it very easy to set the SIN number, because when you apply for the birth certificate, it's all bundled up in that application. So you get your social insurance number, the birth certificate, and it also applies for the Canada Child Benefit that we talked about. So it's all kind of done all in one. And on top of that, if you're a little bit tardy, like a lot of parents, I mean, newborn is, you know, have a lot of things going on, they actually sometimes give you a call to remind you, hey, you need to send in your application, which is a great service.
Awesome.
What about you, Pecky? What about you, LaToya? Sorry.
What was the question?
So at what age do you think that we should set up your child with a SIN number?
I think when they first get a job at 14, at 16 years old, when they're ready to work and start making an income.
I'm learning a lot from both of our experts here. While we're on the topic of education, I have another question for you both. What are your tips for making education a priority at the beginning of a child's life? Becky?
Oh, LaToya, do you want to go first?
LaToya, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think it's so important to start right at home. My husband and I, we read to our children every single day. They have workbooks. We sit with them. My daughter, she's learning the alphabet, how to trace the letter A. My Zane, he's 2 years old. He's learning, head and shoulders, knees and toes. And we're really getting them ready for the school system. We're getting them ready for kindergarten. So you have to have an educational based routine at home. It starts from the household, because I'm still learning, I'm still growing, and education is a part of being human.
That's so true. And what about you, Becky?
Well, for me, the biggest thing that I hear about education is how expensive it costs at university or colleges, especially these days. The tuition fees are just going up and up. And so the best thing is to create an RESP for your child. Now, one of the things I would like to tell people is that our RESP is not the same thing as an RRSP. Because I do have parents coming at the end of the year asking me, well, where can I put my RESP deduction? There is actually no deduction for the RESP because it's after-tax money that you're contributing into the RESP. Mm-hmm. I mean, the thought behind this is that when you're finally taking out the money, it's your child that's going to take out the money from the RESP, and in that case, they're the ones going to be reporting it as income. But the benefit that, even though you don't get a deduction, the benefit is that you get grants. So there's a 20% grant that you get from Canada, the government of Canada, and on the sum that you contribute in. So it's kind of like free money. So that's why I tell people, open up your RESP as soon as possible.
Since you touched on RESP and RRSP, can you share with our audience the deadlines? Because I know that also gets a little confusing.
So there's actually no deadlines for RESP. There's just a lifetime contribution amount. So you can, at any point in time, you can contribute into the RESP. So there's no deadline like the RRSP. The lifetime limit is about $50,000. So, but what I do tell people is it's really hard to put in money because children are very expensive. So it's best that you put in little by little, especially if you're already getting a check from the Canada Child Benefit. Maybe put that check towards the RESP is what I tell people. RRSP, yes, there is the March 1st or March 2nd deadline, depending on the year. So there is a deadline for RRSP. And the other thing about RESP is that you can do catch-up payments. So even if the first couple of years you didn't have money to put into RESP, you can catch up on those payments for RESPs.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So let's talk parenting. Later in your child's life, what should we keep in mind to be a better parent during the dreaded tuition years, Peggy?
Well, there's the tuition transfer that I was talking about before. So because your child probably doesn't really have any income at that point in time, so they're allowed to transfer about $5,000 to you as credit. So that's one thing to keep in mind. As for their child, there's probably deductions that they can take, especially if they're moving to school. So there could be claiming moving expenses. There's textbooks, rent, things like that to keep in mind.
And what do you think about that, LaToya?
I 100% agree with Becky.
That's great. So we have another question from the audience. Can you write off kids' sports and equipment? What about skiing at the hills or lessons? What do you think about that, Becky?
Unfortunately, the fitness and art credits went away this year, so you cannot write those off anymore. What I would suggest, though, if you're interested in those activities, you can still have childcare expenses. So you can maybe find a childcare space that actually provides childcare, but also do those activities. And then therefore, those expenses then would be deductible as a childcare expense.
Oh, that's great. And we have another tax-related question. Would you suggest starting your child out with a TFSA earlier on, or just a regular savings account when they're older?
So unfortunately, you can't just start a TFSA when they're a baby. You actually have to wait until they're 18 to start a tax-free savings account. Yeah, and then at that point in time, they'll start earning the room. I believe the room is up to like 5,500 right now. So, yeah, they keep on changing sometimes, especially depending on which government it is. But yes, you have to wait until they're 18.
That's awesome. I've got a hard one for you both. What's your number one parenting tip? Would you like to take that, LaToya, first?
Sure. My number one parenting tip is to live in the moment with your children, because time just flies. Just the other day, I was pregnant with my child. Now they're 3 and 2. Next thing you know, they're off to college asking me to pay for a wedding. So it is so important for me to be in the moment with my children, because time flies.
So true, so true. And how about you, Becky?
I think maybe reading your child, the Tax Act, it puts them right to sleep.
That's a good tip. So
Exactly.
yes.
And this is a great way to teach them about taxes.
All right, so we're gonna just have a few more questions from our audience. For LaToya, what do you say if your twin kids want to buy something stupid with their money?
I say the parents need to guide their decision at all times, okay? Because, and what's considered stupid? Did they mention that in the comments?
I don't think they did, but I'm just assuming they blew their money on something that's ridiculous.
We're going back to the store and we're going to return it.
Yeah. Or it's going to end up in the bin like a week later.
Right, exactly. Oh my God.
So how do you stop your kids? Like, I find that challenging. Like, my kid always wants the latest trend, and then you go out, you get it, and then like they play with it a little bit and it's done, right? So what do you advise parents to do? How do you control your children from not blowing off their money that way?
My children are still young, I still have the reward system set up where I make them clean the house, clean up after themselves, and we go out and I get them things that I think will help, but that will benefit them in their life, like now I'm getting more educational based toys for my children, because the little action figures, little balls, they just end up underneath the bed, so I get toys that will bring value to my child's life. And most of the time, the kids nowadays, they just want an iPad. They want to be on the iPad.
True. Well, my 9-year-old doesn't just want an iPad. She wants the latest iPad.
The lady answering the questions is cutting out a bit on my end.
Oh, can you hear us?
I can hear Pecky.
Yeah, that's me. Yes. Okay, great. So we have one question for you, LaToya, from the audience. What shampoo do you use?
What do I use? I use Shea Moisturizer shampoo. It has coconut oil in it, shea butter in it. It's an all natural shampoo, and they really asked me that question?
They did. But it's good for us to know as well.
Nice. Shea Moisture.
Yeah. Pecky, we have another question from our audience for you. Can I submit more than 1 year of taxes at the same time?
So yes, there are a lot of people that have previous year's tax returns that they need to file. For one reason or another, they may have missed those years. So yes, you can still submit those, and we do ask them, those people to actually submit those returns first. So let's say they missed out on 2015, 2016, and 2017. Mm-hmm. So file the 2015 first, then 2016, and then 2017.
And TurboTax supports.
Exactly. Yeah, we have TurboTax for all the years. So yeah, you just need to go online and go on to either our online product or our desktop product.
We got another question from our audience. When should my children open a bank account?
That seems to be a very hot question.
I think a lot of people would, I mean, that's good. They're all thinking finances for their kids and saving up for their future, which I think is very important in our economy today.
Yes.
So what do you think?
So I think as early as possible. So if they're getting gifts from grandma, grandpa, or if they're earning an allowance, so that's a great way for them to show them how to save, you know, and then putting money away. And if they're earning an allowance, you can always think about, you know, doing a payroll deduction as well, because that's how it works in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the earlier the better. My children, we opened bank accounts for them when they were in the womb.
Yeah.
When we figured out what their name was going to be, you know. And so yeah, the earlier the better. Start saving for their future, start saving for college if that's something they choose to do. You know, start saving for their first car as well. Yeah, and when they start earning an allowance would be ideal to open up a bank account.
Yeah, and I see like my 9-year-old, same thing. I opened up when she was young,
Mhm.
and in the beginning, and I would take her to the bank, and she would take all her money in the piggy bank and put it in. And in the beginning, she wouldn't get it. Like, why are they taking my money? And she'd cry. But but now that she's 9 and she sees the amount, she's excited. She's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
so I can save, and I can, by the time I'm 16, I can get a car. So it's good. Yeah, I think as early as possible for sure.
Man, that's a big allowance then.
And it also teaches the child patience. The longer you wait,
Yes.
the bigger the reward, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So LaToya, I have a question for you. How do we get our picky eater to try new food?
My son Zane is the
Problem.
pickiest eater ever. So what I do is he does not like vegetables. So what I do is I blend up the vegetables, and he loves pasta. So I will mix it in with a red sauce so he can't tell that the vegetables are in there. So that's how I get him to eat his vegetables, you know, get your vitamins, get your minerals. And yeah, so you have to kind of sneak it in there.
What about you, Pecky? Do you have advice on that?
Well, I don't have advice about getting your kids to eat, but I do have a fun fact about food and tax deductions. So, for example, if you have a gluten allergy, the amount that your food costs, the extra amount of your food costs versus buying normal food, that is actually a tax deduction, a medical expense.
I'm sure our audience would be very happy
wow.
to hear that. Yeah. And another question that we received, can we write off our children's medical expenses, which is related to what you were talking
Exactly.
about? Perfect
So
timing.
yes, you can, especially if your son or your daughter is your dependent. You can lump in all of their medical expenses onto your return or your spouse's return. So in TurboTax, we actually optimize it for you, especially if you're filing together with your spouse, and then that way we know who should be taking the medical expense.
Yeah, and I think like they can go to their to the pharmacy that they usually purchase from, right, and get a whole report. So in case if they lost anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the end of the year, a lot of people are, oh, I don't know if I have all my prescription receipts and things like that. A lot of time, you can just go to your pharmacist and he will print out a copy of all of your year's worth of medical receipts.
My next question is for LaToya. What are some things worth spending money on as a parent? This is interesting.
Okay, so I think the other day for my son's birthday, I bought him an iPad for his birthday. So I think something, yeah, so educational based items, I think as a parent, I want to help my child purchase those things that they couldn't afford, you know? So like an iPad or a laptop, or, you know, they have to, you know, it's just going to take so long for a 5-year-old to save up for something like that. So I think it's important, you know, in my household, we have a reward system set up where our kids, they have to clean, they have to pick up their toys, make up their bed, help me with chores. And then in that way, we reward them with something nice.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. like something that they can use,
Right.
educational,
Right.
that helps them
Yeah.
learn. How about you, Becky?
Other than the education amounts that you can deduct, I don't know.
Pecky, do you need a birth certificate to open up a bank account?
So really, you do need some identification. So yes, if you're opening up a bank account for your child, that's probably one of their few pieces of ID that you have, especially in the early months. So yes, you will need to bring that to the bank.
That's good. Is there anything else that you would need to take, or that would be enough?
Well, that and your own ID as well. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So make sure to get your own ID as well. We have another question for you. Can I use a high school trip to Europe as an education expense? I like that one.
Well, there's no education expense per se, so it's not like you're deducting for employment or for businesses. So from an education perspective, you're getting the tuition credit and you get an education amount. The tuition credit is based on the amount of tuition that you pay, and then the education credit, the education amount is based on the number of months that you've attended school. So unfortunately, no, the high school trip is not deductible.
Next question. I have my first grandbaby due in September. I'd love to put some money into an account. I'm kind of lost where to put it. Any tips, Pecky?
So for a child, you can open up a bank account for them. There's no special vehicles for them though. So there's no, you can't open up a tax using account. You can't open an RSP for them. What I do suggest though, you as a grandparent, you can actually open up their RESP for them. And that way you can also get the benefit of having the grants. But for the RESP, you need to wait until they're actually born for you to open that up so that they can start putting money in. And then that way, it's not only just your money that's contributing towards their education, but the government of Canada also puts in their grants.
So how do you apply for the Canada Child Benefit?
To apply for the Canada Child Benefit is actually pretty straightforward, especially in Ontario. While you're applying for the birth certificate, the government actually does all of that in one package, so you don't have to think about having separate applications. So you do the social insurance number, the birth certificate, as well as the Canada Child Benefit all at once.
Thank you for that, Pecky. LaToya, what would you advise some activities, like sports activities, to put your young children in, like ages 1 to 4?
Okay, so my daughter, she's in dance, she's in gymnastics, and she's 3 years old. I just enrolled my son Zane in soccer, so I think the earlier the better. I'm all about health and fitness, and children need to let out steam. They have a lot of energy, so we channel that energy into sports, into activities, and yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, and like you mentioned, like now with technology, they're always sitting down, right? They don't get fitness, so getting them out there and doing something that they love or enjoy, that's great. That's great for them. Our next question is, how do you manage handling children's expenses? Mistakes from a discipline perspective. Oh, somebody's asking about a damaged iPad. So I guess the kid damaged the iPad. So how would you handle that situation? It was as an expensive mistake from a discipline perspective.
Wow. I've never been in that situation yet, but how I would handle that is, firstly, while putting through that purchase, I would make sure that there was insurance on the iPad. A lot of these technology nowadays have at least 2 years insurance to get it fixed. So I would kind of, put the iPad aside, and the kid is going to be banned from the iPad for a month or two. And, they damaged the iPad. You have to be more responsible when it comes to technology, when it comes to your things. You worked hard for it, you saved up your money to purchase this item, and it's important that you take care of it.
So true.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's a good idea to get, I guess, I mean, that's why you do get
Yeah, and
make sure that you have insurance. um, so how do you start to save for your kids' future, Pecky?
Little by little, I guess. But one of the big things about tax return is that people's biggest check for the year is their tax refund. So instead of planning out on where to spend that money, I think you probably put some away for your child.
Mhm.
What about you, LaToya?
For sure. It's so important that, so every time I get paid, I put money aside for my kids' future. That's important to me. And when they start getting an allowance, best believe we are going to take a percentage of that allowance to put towards their future. So yeah, it's important that they put it towards their education or their wedding, you know, huge purchases or a car.
Or their
Yeah.
house.
Or their
Or their
house.
house.
Or their house.
With the price market.
Or their house.
Oh God, yes, for sure.
Oh my gosh,
So I think
this is a lot to think about. I'm like, oh my gosh,
I know.
I'm going through it.
So I think this next question, I think it's every parent's, like every parent thinks about, how do I get my kids outside? How do we get them to put down their iPad, get off the TV, and go play outside like we used to? So,
Oh, I know.
want to go first?
You can start talking to them about their taxes.
Oh.
Right? They'll run out the door.
Yeah, that's true. Use fear. What do you think, LaToya?
Honestly, I grew up outside riding my bike, and my mom would be calling for me at like 6 o'clock. LaToya, it's time to come inside. This is a new world that we live in where all these kids just want to be on their iPads, you know? So that's why it's so important as a parent. You know, Samia, Zane, those are my kids. Let's go to the park. Let's go for a walk. Let's learn how to ride a bike. Let's go for a wagon ride, you know? And the kids, they're so young, they love the outdoors. So yeah, you just have to drag your kids outside and enjoy the weather, enjoy the nature, the beauty. There's so much beauty out here. Be
So
one
would you
with the
recommend?
earth.
Yeah, would you recommend parents like scheduling time? Because I think like as much as we do want to get the kids out, I think us as parents have such busy schedules where, you know, back then our parents maybe had more time for us. Like, do you think like, would you recommend them maybe booking time or making sure on the weekend, like having or creating activities with their children to help push them out?
Yes, I believe that is necessary to have them in different activities, outdoor activities, soccer, hockey, street ball, dodgeball, leagues. Just, you know, it's important to have your children exposed to that so they're not always on their iPad in the house, you know, bored. You have to put them in these extracurricular activities. It's
So
fun.
true.
It's so much more fun than being on an iPad.
I know. I don't know why they like it, but yeah.
Right? The other day we went to the trampoline park and I'm like having so much fun. I'm like, this is fun. I don't want to be on an iPad on my phone. I'll get rid of it.
For sure. Pecky, so this is a interesting question. One of the members in our audience are saying that their company just closed down and we are to receive severance pay. What do I need to know about deductions?
So severance pay is considered a retiring allowance in tax speak. So for the retiring allowance, there's considered eligible or ineligible retiring allowance. Basically, the eligible portion of the retiring allowance can go directly into your RSP, and then it doesn't take up your RSP contribution room. Versus the ineligible retiring allowance would just be regular employment income. So what I do tell people though, if you do have the RSP contribution room and you do have an ineligible retiring allowance, this is a great time to put in the extra money for your retirement.
Okay, that's really good information. This is a funny question. Pecky, why do taxes exist? Putting you on the spot here.
Well, I do tell people that, we do live in a great society. Canada is a great place to live. And, we have healthcare, we have, free schools, and all those things needs, money to pay for those. Even your roads, and taxes is what pays for those. So that's why taxes exist. And I think from a non-tax person's perspective, it just exists to annoy you, especially around April.
The tax process isn't fun, but I'm sure you'll make it easy for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
We will.
Yeah.
And convenient. I'm loving the split screen thing going on.
Do you think paying down the mortgage is equally important to making monthly payments to RRSPs and RESPs?
Ooh, so that's
Where do I find more money?
That's a very difficult question because it's really dependent on your tax situation as well as what the market is currently at.
Yeah.
So for the last few years, the interest rate is very low for your mortgage, for borrowing money. So a lot of times we tell people, it might be a good time to pay down because really you may not be earning that much in your RSP, So it really is a balance of how much can you be earning and how much you have to pay towards the interest. And then what is the balance between two, which one's more beneficial in your case. So it really depends on your interest rate as well as how much you can earn in your RSP.
And what are the credits for having a disability or being a caregiver, Pecky?
That's a good question because there's a change this year. So we no longer have, prior to this year, there's a lot of different amounts that you can do. The disability tax credit still exists, but there's other amounts for infirms, but they all lumped it together, and now it's considered a Canada caregiver caregiver amount. Yes, sorry. So one big change about that is before you were able to claim a senior parent that was living in your home for the Canada caregiver amount. But now the parent has to be infirm in order for you to claim that. So that's the one big change this year.
What are some other big federal changes that maybe you want to let the audience know about?
Ooh, the one that I'm super excited about is the extension of the maternal and parental leave. So starting next year, you can get 18 months of maternity leave. Yay!
Yay!
Woohoo!
That's exciting. I'm sure a lot of parents out there will enjoy that.
Yes.
And daddies.
So it's time to start getting pregnant.
Right?
I'm already halfway.
You said that's happening
LaToya?
next year?
Yes.
Okay.
It starts next year, I think around July.
Okay. Awesome.
LaToya, how can you stay patient with teenagers? It's a hard one.
How can you stay patient with teenagers? Oh my gosh, it's hard to stay patient with toddlers. But you know what? Honestly, you just have to practice patience. And if you don't have it, scream into a pillow.
Yeah. And I think once in a while, I mean, we're human at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to lose it. We understand. I think every parent
Yeah.
has their times. But yeah.
Yeah, you have to practice patience.
So talking about children, Pecky, what about child care expense deductibles?
So for you to deduct for childcare expenses, you must be either going to work or going to school, and therefore you need childcare. So those are the only childcare expenses that are deductible. So if you're going on a date with your spouse, that really doesn't count. So, and for the childcare expenses, it's one of the parents that can take it, and it really depends on who is the lower income spouse. There are some exceptions to that, but just let the software do that for you.
Yeah, so the software calculates it for you, and
Exactly.
you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
That's
so
great.
just make sure you you do your return together, and then it will just optimize everything for you. So you don't have to think about all those details.
That's awesome. Next question. When can my teenagers start to file their taxes? That's a good one.
Oh, that's a very good question. And a lot of people don't even feel like they should be filing a return for their kids. But one of the things, benefit of filing the return early is that if they have income, they're going to start earning RSP room. So they may not have an RSP yet, but maybe later on, especially if they're having, earning more and more, that RSP room is going to come in very handy for them, especially around tax time for a deduction.
So you would suggest like the minute they start earning income,
yeah.
If they're 16, 18, they should start filing.
Exactly, they should file. And just because you're filing doesn't necessarily mean you owe taxes, right? So maybe their income level is so low that they don't owe any taxes. But it's a good way, especially it's a teachable moment too. So you can tell them, hey, this is what we're doing for you. This is how you do your own taxes, so they don't have to wait until, they move out on their own to learn about, and then, they don't know what they're doing. Because a lot of things about, finances seems like a mystery to a lot of people, but really there's no mystery to it. It's actually pretty straightforward, common sense. So it's just a matter of introducing them to early so they're not fearful of the subject matter.
That's great to know. And LaToya, when do you start thinking about your kids getting a job? When is it time to say, go? It's time for you to start earning your own money.
Yeah. I think 16 when I started, working. My first job was a hostess at this, Montana's cookhouse. I don't know if you've been there, but yeah, I think 16, it gears them up for, their career. It gears them up for the workforce. So 16 years old.
Yeah, that sounds like a good age, and they're responsible enough as well, right? To take care of themselves.
For sure. Yeah. Teaches them responsibility, saving, being smart with your money, hopefully. Hopefully they learn from their parents when you're giving them their allowances.
And Pecky, is the child tax credit payment going up this year?
So the Canada Child Benefit, it depends on the age and your family income. So you can get up to a maximum of $6,400 for a child under 6 years old, or $5,400 for above that. So it is going to be indexed. So yes, I guess it is going up. So yeah, and it's not taxable. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's a big thing this year. A lot of parents are asking me, well, where am I putting this amount? But it's not taxable, so you don't have to put it into your return.
That's great to know. LaToya, here's a hard one. How do you know when you're ready to be a parent? When does it feel right?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard one for me.
Does it ever feel right?
That's a hard one for me because both of my children were unexpected. And I don't think you know. I just think it happens, I just think it's a thing that happens and you go with the flow,
Yeah. What do you think, Becky?
Well, don't take that approach with your finances or taxes, please.
Right.
Yeah. It can't just happen. But yes. How can you inspire your children to exercise, LaToya?
Oh my gosh. So I work out at least 4 days a week. And my children, they're toddlers, and they work out with me, so really working out and showing my children what I do, my movements, it inspires them to want to, go out there, work out, live a healthy lifestyle. We practice healthy living in our household. And so I think it's just going to be second nature to them.
So basically, yeah, getting the parents should get involved.
Yeah, for sure.
To push
yeah.
So you have to get up and exercise.
Right. So parents, you need to be exercising for your children too. Because if the parent's not exercising, the kid is gonna be on the iPad watching their videos.
How do I submit a T-slip if I already filed with TurboTax? I never received it in the mail.
So it's actually pretty easy to amend your return. You need to file to the CRA a T180J, a T1 adjustment. So you just need to enter in the amount that you missed on your income. So this is where I kind of recommend people to make sure that they have my account, because employers or banks or whatever T-slip, they're actually required to be submitted to CRA. So if you had my account, even if you didn't receive it in the mail, like maybe it got lost, you would have been able to download it from the account.
So yeah, that's a really good and important tip, which we find a lot of customers have no idea about my CRA account.
Yes.
Maybe if you can explain a little bit like how to set it up, where they should go.
Sure. So it's actually pretty easy. It's on CRA's website. You just maybe Google my account, CRA, and then it'll bring you to the website for you to sign in. You will need some kind of identification. So there's two ways to sign in, either through your banking information or through your, you need your last year's return, because they'll ask you one question about line XYZ, what is the number there? So you have to have those information, as well as your date of birth and your social insurance number. So the benefit, though, of having my account is not just downloading your information into the tax return and making it super easy for you to file, but it's also getting access to the information. So access to knowing how much RSP room you have, or how much tax-free savings account room you have, or any previous filings if you forgot those numbers. Oh, maybe you have tuition credits that you're carrying forward, or maybe you have losses that you're carrying forward. So all those numbers will be inside there for you to access.
That's a lot of great information. What are the different ways you can file this year? And can you file on the phone? I'm assuming this is like, what are the different ways you can file with TurboTax, right? Mm-hmm. And can you file on the phone?
So with TurboTax, we have lots of different products. So we have a desktop product if you're used to or want to use a desktop product, or we have the online product as well. There's also the free TurboTax free, which is for simple returns, so you don't even have to pay for that. What I suggest to people, though, is go onto our website, and we actually ask you a few questions to make sure that you are connected to the right product within our bag of products, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm.
Back to parenting. Any tips for people who are trying to avoid clutter, LaToya? I know this is like everybody's too much stuff.
Avoiding clutter. Oh my gosh. Honestly, every week I have to go through toys, and I have to get rid of the things that, my children don't play with. It's just collecting dust. So it's important to declutter at least once a week, especially if you have toddlers. I'm always decluttering when it comes to clothing, when it comes to the toys, when it comes to like loose papers all over the place, things that we don't use. So yeah, decluttering is definitely important in this household.
I think in every household.
Yes, I hope,
Pile.
I've watched some hoarder shows, I mean.
Do you have any advice on that, Becky?
Well, I think that's a great advice. Like decluttering, think about decluttering your finances and your bills, especially if you're running a business inside your home, or you're self-employed. It's good to not do it weekly, but maybe do it every month or every quarter to make sure that all your receipts are in place, so that when it comes tax time, it's not as painful, because everything is organized and everything is in order.
That is some great advice, Becky.
Great advice, yeah. I run my own business, and I have a filing cabinet of January, February, March, and we put all our receipts. As soon as we have a business expense receipt, we have to put it in the filing cabinet so it doesn't get lost. When I first started my business, my receipts were just all over the place. I'm always losing receipts. You have to organize your receipts in time for tax.
Dream customer.
I used to have a garbage bag full of my receipts, having to organize them. Oh my gosh, it was a drag.
LaToya, how do you motivate children or teens to do something they don't want to do? So, I
How do you
know.
motivate them to do something? Like what? Give me an
What?
example.
Yeah, I know.
Can we get an example, please?
I'm thinking like maybe eat something that they don't want to eat or go, to their grandparents' house.
You have to
Um,
reward them in some way. Mommy and daddy, we are going out to eat and you're going to have to go to Nana and Papa's house, all right? And we'll bring you back dessert. My
that's a
kids
good
will be
one.
waiting for that dessert, but yeah, they'll be good.
Any final parenting thoughts, LaToya?
Any final parenting thoughts? My only parenting thought is be in the moments with your kids, with your loved ones, because time just flies away. As I get older, I'm like, where did time go? It's like almost 7 o'clock. I'm like, what did I do with my day? So it's so important to just live in the moment with the people you love and just embrace each other, because next thing you know, my kid is moving out, going to college.
It's like this tax season. I can't believe it just flew by and there's like 2 weeks left. So yeah, for sure. Time flies.
Time flies. Do you feel that way too?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. What about you, Pecky?
Oh,
Final parenting thoughts.
I don't know about parenting thought, but I'll add on to, April 30th is around the corner, so get your taxes done. And if you need help, Smart Look is here, so we can talk to you through your taxes.
That is so awesome. I love that.
Avoid
Yeah. Because you can do your taxes in the convenience of your own home. Like you don't have to go to an office. You can do it right on your phone. And we can see you.
Yes. Yeah. I can't see you guys, but
but everybody sees you.
Exactly.
So that's a wrap for today's special edition for Smart Look. Keep following our Facebook page for our next edition and more tax tips for chances to win. Thanks, Pecky and LaToya. Thank you so much for being with us today. It was a lot of fun. I think we all learned a lot of great tips from both of you. And I hope our audience had a great time. And like we said, time flew by. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
so much for having us. It was fun.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.